So we're going to be sharing our screen. So Joe's going to dive into, I'm going to give some background. And then Joe's going to dive into the details of the actual demoing the new portal itself. We ask you to stay muted during the meeting just to facilitate the session, but please do use the Skype chat function for any questions or clarifications. We'll be talking for about 25 minutes. We timed ourselves yesterday, but about 25 minutes. But we will stop so a couple of times to check if there are any questions or points for clarification. So do feel free to jot something down, because the likelihood is if you've got a question or a point for clarification, then someone else will have the same thing, or thinking the same thing. And then at the end of the session, there'll be ample time if you prefer to kind of comment verbally or ask a question, and at that point, that will be fine. So as we said, the session will be recorded, and what the plan is to make this available online on the Explore Bristol Research section of the Pure Support website, which means you can come back to it, and you can also refer your colleagues to the video, to the session, if you think they'll find it useful too. So the purpose of the session today is to allow you a preview to the new portal and get some familiarity with some of the new features. We know that many of you out in the faculties and schools and groups and institutes use Pure, and that you also help your school and group colleagues to use Pure and Explore Bristol Research. And we hope this session will give you a bit of extra knowledge that will be helpful when you're working with colleagues and colleagues on Pure. So as well as the session today, we've been communicating the upcoming, the new version of the portal by Twitter and Yammer, on the staff bulletins and on the BDC bulletin. In addition to this, I emailed school managers last week with the details of the changes, and asked them to disseminate that information locally to academic staff and postgraduate research students. So I'm hoping that the message is getting around of the upcoming change. So just then to go on to a bit more about the background of the project and the motivation for the change. So as you'll know, we've had Pure for several years now. We've had it since 2012, and the public portal Explore Bristol Research since 2013. And the purpose of the Explore Bristol Research portal was and still is to provide an online catalogue of research that can be viewed and searched by internal and external audiences. And the other kind of key purpose of Explore Bristol Research is in its function as the university's open access repository. So it provides open, barrier-free access to full text copies of our research publications and theses. Pure and Explore Bristol Research are built by a commercial vendor, Elsevier. Until now, Explore Bristol Research portal was a custom product. So it was custom built for Bristol back in 2012, 2013, specifically for us. So we had full control over the look and feel and over what the functions appeared and how they worked. But Elsevier is changing their business model and will soon stop support for these custom-built portals like ours. And instead, Elsevier are moving to providing one standard portal product for all universities. So we need to respond to that. We need to move away from our existing custom Explore Bristol Research product and adopt the standard Pure portal. So that's the background. So the Pure team have been doing a lot of work with Elsevier over the last couple of months to get the portal configured as much as we can to make it suitable for Bristol. And we're now at the point where we feel ready to launch that new portal. So the new portal will be launched in the week of the 25th of May. We're not yet committing to a particular day that week. I'm aware that the 25th of May is a bank holiday, so it won't be on that day, but it will be some point during that week, and we'll let you know once it's been launched. Some really high-level benefits and information about what's changing and what's not changing now. So the benefits of the new portal, well, really it's a fresh design which is up to date with features that you would expect of a modern website. So if you're familiar with Explore Bristol Research, you'll know that its design is quite tired now, and it doesn't have many of the features that you might expect to see. So the new portal will bring these in. Another benefit is that Elsevier are developing and improving the portal all the time. And so we'll be able to see and use these improvements in our own portal almost as soon as they've been released. This should keep the portal interesting and encourage people to come back and keep seeing the new features. And the last benefit is around the technology, the back end. So the new portal, the new version, is more resilient than our old Explore Bristol Research, which will mean less downtime and faster page loads. There are a couple of disadvantages. It won't be unique because other universities, including some in the UK, will also be using the same portal technology. Another disadvantage is that not everything is as we would like it yet, and we're working with Elsevier and the other pure universities to improve some of the areas, and there'll be a little bit more about this as we go through. And then before we move on, I'll just tell you something at a very high level about what's changing and what's not changing. So there are some key new features which help to illustrate the breadth of our research and the way our researchers collaborate globally. So that's a big change and a big improvement, we think. There are also new features that help to navigate the user from one piece of research to other areas on the portal, which may also be of interest. And lastly, the colours are changing. That will be the change that you see immediately when we start demoing it. We're moving from blue to red. What's not changing? Well, the main URL and most of the links that we currently use will stay the same, the vast majority of the links. So it'll still be at the same site, so you shouldn't have to update links if you've got links from your website to the main Explore Bristol Research or the main listings pages or the profile pages. They'll all stay the same. The method of inputting information is pure and will remain pure, and the templates will be largely the same there. And lastly, the publication widget isn't going to change as a result of the new portal. We're going to update a few of the more in-depth links from the publication into the portal, but it should carry on working as before apart from that. Before I move into before we move on to the demo part of the session, I'm just wondering if there are any questions at this stage. I can't see anything in the chat. So unless someone is typing now, I can't see that anyone's typing now. So I suggest we carry on into the demo. And there. So I think Jo is going to share her screen with us now. So I'll hand over to you now, Jo. Thanks.
Thanks, Helen. Yes, so I've shared my screen. Hopefully you can see our existing Explore Bristol Research pages at the minute. If that's not the case, please let me know. I've increased the size to 150% because I know when you see it through the Skype sharing window, it's still quite small. So again, if that's not big enough as we go through, please let me know, and I'll try and increase it again. Okay, so so over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to do a walkthrough of the homepage, have a look at a profile page and look at the content types. And I'm going to particularly focus on the new features available. There's three main new features in the pages that we'll look at. And essentially their purpose is to provide a richer visual data for the content on Explore Bristol Research. However, along the lines of what Helen was saying, hopefully you'll recognise a lot of it as essentially being the same now, but just with a different look. And we are keen to emphasise that this is very much a redesign, and the core purpose and underlying processes are all still the same. One of the things I just want to say before I start about the terminology I'm using, the pages are still called Explore Bristol Research. They're also known as the Pure Portal, and we use both these terminologies in our communications. During this demo, I'll probably say EBR rather than Explore Bristol Research every time, because I think I'm saying it quite a few times. So the page I'm on now is, as hopefully you recognise, the existing Explore Bristol Research pages. And I'm just going to switch to the new page. So hopefully now you can see the new branded Explore Bristol Research page. This site that we're looking at is our development site, because it's not live yet. As Helen was saying, this address up here, ignore that. It will be the same URL. So just to sort of walk down this page, the first thing you get to is the search bar, and then following that you get the grouped content types. If you click into any of these content types, you'll see the entire list for the university, by default sorted into date order, and then you can search within that content type only. So again, that's pretty much as it is now. Following this, we've got a short sort of summary about what EBR is, and this is just because the purpose of EBR has been to cater for an external audience as well as an internal. So we just want to sort of explain what it is, that it's basically for showcasing the university's research to the wider world. So this bit is here for the external audience information. As we scroll down the homepage, the next part is one of the key new features. This is a university-wide collaboration map, and this shows where worldwide our academics have collaborated on publications and projects. So if you hover over one of the dots, it will show you the country or state. The size of the dot indicates the number of collaborations. If you click on the dot, it will bring up a list of institutions with the highest number of collaborations first. And then, say if you want to look at this list of 36 research outputs that have been done with the University of Iceland, that will take you to a separate page on Explore Bristol Research with that full list. So the map is dynamic. It will update whenever an overseas external collaborator is added, which includes the country and institution. And it's set to show the last 5 years of collaboration. We'll be seeing this map again shortly in the demo, because it also features on an individual level on the profile pages. And just going down to this is the end part of the page. This is a list of faculties, and again, you can click into each faculty to see further information. So that's it for the homepage. This is everything you should expect to see on the homepage. If you have any questions so far, please just pop them into the chat window, and if we don't address them straight away, we'll come back to them at the end. Okay, I'm going to now take you through a profile page that is a bit more involved. Oops. Tim Peters has kindly agreed to be our example subject for the training purposes for these pages. So we're going to look at his page. So the top part of the page still contains the basic information about the person, their name, title, postnominals, job title, photo, plus any links to ORCID or Scopus or other websites. Part of this information syncs from the HR systems automatically, so that's ERP for staff or SITS for students, and then photos and links can be added in Pure. So this is the same as now. One thing you may see immediately here is that currently Tim's name is followed by a list of postnominals, whilst his title of professor is on the line below. This is the default display, but we've requested that this is changed so they're switched around and it reads Professor Tim Peters, as we think that will look better. However, this may not happen before we go live, so it may still be like this, but if anyone queries it, please let them know this will be changing soon. One of the new things straight away on the page, although not one of the major key changes, is this small graph on the right-hand side. This essentially is a quick overview of publication and project numbers over the years for the individual. So scrolling down a bit, we've got this the bar that's similar to that on the home page, where you can see the different content for the individual. So you can choose to look up their projects or publications or activities. And then this is followed by the research statement, which is generated by completing a free text box within Pure. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll past that bit. The next bit we get to is a section called Fingerprint. This is the second key new feature of the EBR pages. So fingerprinting is an Elsevier term, and it summarises the content in Explore Bristol Research, and it creates these topic labels, and these are called concepts in this system. So each of these 8 boxes is a concept, and these are the topics that appear most frequently in this person's work. So on the profile page, essentially this is an overview of the fingerprint. It only ever shows you the first 8. We can click through to see the full fingerprint, and I'll do that now. So now we're on Tim's fingerprint page, and this then shows us the full list of concepts. When you hover over them, it will show you the weighting. The weighting is essentially how commonly this topic appears in Tim's work. So all the concepts that are weighted above 20% are visible. So like this one here is 92% weighted, and then this one is 21% weighted. You can also click into the concepts, and this will show you across the university related profiles and other publications or any other related content which you can then explore. So if you want to see all the profiles that have related concept of quality of life, you can click through to that here. This is what we're looking at, is the person fingerprint. Other content on Pure also has its own fingerprint generated. So each publication may have its own fingerprint, as well as projects, organisation, and prizes can all have fingerprints. Just to say, I think probably the way I've explained it is a fairly basic explanation of how it works, because the mechanics of this fingerprint generation are actually quite involved, but I don't really want to attempt to go into it now. If you are interested in finding out more detail about the fingerprint generation, Elsevier do offer a more detailed explanation on their pages, and we link to those on our support pages, and we can forward all these links following the demo. So just before going back to Tim's homepage, I'm going to jump into his research output list so we can look at the fingerprints there. Just to say, I can see that a few queries are coming in. I will, at the end of this section, we'll have a look at them. So I'm not ignoring them.
Yeah, Joe, I'm keeping an eye on them too, so we can go over those together. Happy to do
okay.
that.
Yes, if we'll pick them up after we've gone through the profile. So yes, while we're here, I'm just going to have a look at Tim's research output list so we can have a look at the fingerprints there. Okay. So as you can see in the first entry, there's now a list of fingerprints that are similar to the one in the profile, but these fingerprints relate specifically to this research output. It's the same process otherwise. You hover over them to see, and it shows you the weighting, and again you can click into it to see related content across the pages. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit because I think there's an example, yes, here. This research output, and you will see this, some content does not generate a fingerprint. This is because a minimum amount of data is required to generate one. So for example, if a publication does not have an abstract, there will be no fingerprint. Each concept is weighted according to the relevance and frequency that it's mentioned. So if the weighting of any concept falls under 20%, again, the fingerprint won't be generated. So basically that is the fingerprint and is the second new development of the portal. Like I said, there is a lot more that could be said about the fingerprint, but we just wanted to give you an overview. As we're in the output list at the minute, just to quickly go over the publication information you can see here. On the whole, it's similar to what we're used to seeing. Here it tells us the type of entry it is, like this one is a journal article, and whether you can see the open access orange padlock, which is as in the current pages, and the paperclip to show whether a full text document is attached or not. The other thing, looking at this below one, that you'll spot here that's new, and this is the third new feature, the third key new feature, is the inclusion of metrics information in EBR. So there's four possible types that you can see. There's plum X, which is this one here, altmetrics, which is that one, the numbers of Scopus citations, and the number of Explore Bristol Research downloads for this publication. Hovering over the bottom two will give you a summary of numbers, and then there is also a see details option which will take you respectively to the Plumex page with a lot more information, and likewise you can do the same here with the altmetrics. Again, we do have links on our support pages which have further detail about exactly what each of these metrics mean. So I'm going to go back to the overview page now and continue looking through what else is there. Sorry for jumping around. So we're now back on Tim's profile page. We've had a look at the fingerprint. Underneath the fingerprint is the individual collaboration map. So this is just for Tim. And it works the same as the map on the front page, and it's derived from outputs and projects with external collaborators who work at overseas institutions. In order to appear on the map, this does completely depend on the country and institution being named in the outputs and projects when they're recorded, because it does allow you to record them without this information. So if that's not put in, it won't appear. Again, you can click on country or state to see a preview list, and again the link is clickable to go through to the details. Below the map there's an option to explore the network further. So I'm going to click through into that. Scroll down. This lets us delve deeper into the collaboration information, and essentially it's a way of looking at the same data with more visual options. So the first thing we get to is this diagram of visual links. This one in particular is quite busy. The default settings are here on the left, and these can be changed. So say we only want to see collaborations in the last 2 years, we can change that. And maybe we want only those that are a minimum of 4 collaborations. And it amends the data accordingly. You can also see the same information in a circle diagram. Up here, you can also see the information listed with related profiles. So this is a list of profiles in Tim's network who he's collaborated with. It's both internal and external. And you can look at the same with research units where the collaborations have happened. So apart from the redesign of the pages, it's these 3 elements, the map, the fingerprint engine, and the metrics, which are the key differences in this new website. So that it's a real focus on networking and collaboration information. However, we do recognise that some academic researchers may feel that the map and fingerprint do not represent them accurately. If they find this, the map can be turned off on the individual profile page. It may just be that it's not up to date and they want a chance to update it before turning it on. Or maybe they just never collaborate, so if they don't do any collaborations, the map just shouldn't appear at all. But even if you just collaborate within the UK, you'll get a map with a dot on the UK. The fingerprint can be adjusted. So say, for example, you look at your fingerprint and decided that a particular concept doesn't look right, you don't think that reflects you, you can remove just that particular concept. Or if you have a publication where you just don't want the entire fingerprint to appear, you can remove the whole thing. And this can all be done within Pure. You can't do it yet because it will only be available once we move to these pages. but there's a new item in the edit profile menu within Pure to control your map and your fingerprint. And again, in terms of making those edits, we've got some information on our support pages about this. Okay, so the final thing I want to show you fairly quickly is there's in the search bar on the home page, you'll find a couple of changes. It's just a couple of extra options, really. So when you type something in, oops. As soon as you type in, you get this drop-down list with some extra options. You don't have to use these. If you just hit return or the search key, it will just search as normal. But these just let you search in a particular way if you want to. For example, those concepts that we saw on the fingerprint, if you want to search for everything related to, say, a climate concept, you can do that within the search bar. You can also search for what is called expertise, which essentially means particular profiles related to that term. This bottom option is where, if you've got a big block of text that you want to search for example, an abstract, it takes you to a large search box and you can paste that in and then search for related people. Okay, so I think for the profile page, that's the profile and home page, that's everything to show. Obviously, I can see we've got some questions. Is there any, Helen, that we think we can?
Yeah, I'll start from the top. I've answered a couple in line, but so Patty, hello Patty, is asking, would the university research institutes be under institutes? That relates to the homepage, and I've answered yes. The URIs do appear under the institutes link at the bottom. That's at the bottom on the homepage there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Harriet's asking, hi Harriet, can a map of research collaboration be pulled up for a specific faculty? So that, yes, we've got collaboration maps at the faculty level as well. That's a good example. Faculty of Engineering is probably a nice example to show.
Yeah. So this is the map for the Faculty of Engineering. So yes, the page essentially it sort of looks a bit like a profile page, really, but this is for the faculty.
I hope I can see Harriet's asking a follow-up there, but I'll Patty was also asking, can we have a list of concepts that can be associated to data science? So that's about searching for items related to the concept data science, and I think you've sort of answered that with your search when you were showing the climate search example, Jo.
Yes, shall I? So yes, if we, oops, and then search as concepts, this would be a good test for it. Yes, so it brings up two that are data science, but then again, you can click into the different ones and it will different connected ones, and then it divides it into profiles and research outputs. Like you showed on the mouse over the actual data science terms, there are two of them, but it's because they relate to different broad sort of subject disciplines. One was medicine, and I imagine the other is engineering and technology, so that's why it's appearing twice. But as Jo's just demoed, you can then choose to drill right down to only one specific sort of broad discipline. Okay, carrying on down. Patty's comment about creating a fingerprint for the gene Golding. I'm not sure if we can work with your team on this. So potentially, as
So fingerprints will appear on organisation records for other sorts of clusters of work within the university. That it might be more of a challenge, and I suggest we take that conversation offline because we are still getting up to speed on the fingerprint ourselves. Maybe that's something that we could look at together a little bit after the launch is what I would suggest there. And then Jamie's asking, is there a way to make our own groups of academics to map outputs, or are these fixed?
Oh.
You group some academics together, that's what it looks like. So the whole issue of there's a big question about research groups and grouping people. It sounds like I may need to go back a bit because you lost my sound.
I think you just dropped out for 10 seconds or so.
Okay. Okay, so I was addressing Jamie's question about groups of academics and mapping them. So we don't currently support that at a kind of official university level at the moment. There's a big unanswered question about grouping academics together. We support them through keywords, but we're not at the moment supporting them through as sort of official organisations. So I think that's one. There's a developing conversation there. I think that's probably the best way to say that, to explain that. I know that doesn't completely answer your question. Great. I think that's all the questions that I can see for now. Joe, I don't know if you want to add anything else or carry on now.
Yeah, and we can always we've got time for a few more questions at the end because I've only got a fairly sort of brief section to go now. I'm just going to go into our I'll make this a bit bigger actually. These are our support pages for Explore Bristol Research. So even though the pages aren't live yet, we've put these up in advance just so people have got some information before it happens. So these pages here relate to these changes that we've been talking about, like the fingerprinting and the maps and the metrics. So I just want to talk about future developments and related projects now. So future developments. So as I mentioned, there's things, because this is a sort of off-the-shelf product, any sort of changes we need to request via the vendor. For example, that change I mentioned about switching around the titles and post-nominals. But we do expect, as Helen said, there will be more regular improvements to it. If it's a significant change, we will of course communicate this with you, and we do that through these pages, and as well as other places such as maybe Yammer or Twitter. So, for example, we are expecting some upgrades to the search function over the summer, but we'll try and keep you updated about any changes on our news pages. And just to let you know, there's a couple of changes we've already requested. Both ourselves and other institutions have asked for the inclusion of supervision information on the new EBR pages. Currently, the supervision information is visible in Pure, and it is visible on our existing EBR pages. On the new pages, it only becomes visible once a thesis has been deposited. But we've asked that it's available, during the students' programme. We've also asked for a clearer distinction between staff and students on the profile landing page, as currently they're listed together, and there isn't a way to separate them. So things like that we'll keep working on, and if you have any feedback or suggestions that you think we can take forwards, as always, please contact us. The last thing we want to talk about is related projects, because there's 2 other web projects currently in development that also profile individuals at the university and are also going to be released this year. And we recognise that could be slightly confusing. They're not projects that our team is running, but we've been in contact with the project teams to coordinate the release, and because it involves quite a lot of data sharing. So the first is the University Web Profiles project. We have got on our page actually a sort of summary of these projects. So the University Web Profiles project, this essentially aims to replace the old people profiler sites. So it gives an external facing profile for individuals, which includes academics and any staff who have an external facing role. Information will be taken from Pure to populate this, so that, for example, the research statement. But it will also include information on teaching and skills, biography. So the University Web Profiles has a wider remit than the Explore Bristol research pages, and it will stand alone. It's under development at the minute, and it's planned to be launched in the autumn term. And then the third profiling project is the contact directory. At the minute, the contact directory is external, but it's going to move into the intranet over the next few months. This will be used to look up staff and to find out about roles and responsibilities. And this will include everyone, including those of us who don't have an EBR portal or a university web profile page. So that's it. That brings us to the end of the demo. Obviously, I haven't been through every available page, but we really wanted to focus on the new areas. And once the new pages are live, week commencing the 25th of May, we would encourage everyone to go and have a look and have a play around. And then, of course, if you have questions at that point, you can contact us on Pure Support. So I think now we've got a bit of time to do go back to any questions.
I don't think there were any new ones since.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but I guess now is an opportunity if anyone wants to give us any verbal feedback or questions.
Yes, if you'd rather just switch on your mic and ask a question, if you find it easier, please go ahead. Or if you think of questions, obviously afterwards, always just contact us.
Hi there. I'm Bridget. Support the Bristol Vision Institute.
Hi, Bridget.
Hiya. Now I guess we're quite unique in our way in that we're not one of the university institutes, but we are interdisciplinary. And I'm just wondering what we might share what we do, because we have academics from the Visual Information Lab, we have people from psychology, from life sciences, who all make up the institute and who are interested in vision and its multiple facets. And I'm just kind of wondering how I might manage that. Is that part of the developing conversations you talked about? How we might share that?
Helen, are you?
Yes.
Are you
so
I'm.
So Bridget, is it a specialist research institute rather than a university research institute? Is that how you're classified?
No, it's not classified as that. Maybe it's an offline conversation. So we're not a university research institute. We're not a SRI either. Mm-hmm. We are a grouping of academics who work in vision, be it human, animal, or machine learning. But it's not one of the classified institutes. No.
Right. Okay. Well, no, that's helpful. I think we don't, from the launch date, we don't have the provision to help illustrate your research, I would say, right now. But there's clearly interest from yourself and also from some of the other areas as well, about, because I can see that maybe there's some interest in using these tools to help your sort of area groups and collaborations. So this is something that we need to think about as maybe for the future, looking into ways that we might use this technology. But as it stands at the moment, it's not something that just works out of the box. Obviously, there's a big question about. Obviously, the technology will only work if the mapping exists on the people, and if the mapping doesn't exist, then it won't work. But of course, there's a lot of work. It would be work involved in setting up that mapping, and in the past, there's never been the man hours to help support those mappings. Sure. But it doesn't mean to say that there never will be. But I think it's a conversation for as we go forward with the new portal. Does that sort of help?
Yeah. I mean, it's really positive. I think all the mapping is really, really useful. So maybe the thing to do is just to make sure that all the academics across those different faculties at the moment make sure that their pure profile is as up to date as possible, and all the information is clear. And then maybe at a later date we'll be able to get some of these concepts together, which unify them to make them part of BVI. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so looking at the comments from Jamie and Patty, so it sort of seems echoing Bridget's comment there, so which is helpful.
Yes. I think someone was just typing something, but
okay.
Maybe not. Okay. I mean, yes. I think is one of those things. Once we launch, it's difficult to know what to ask until you've really started using it, isn't it? But by all means, contact us after the launch, and we'll try and ask any questions. And Elsevier have offered to help us out as well with any sort of more involved queries about, along fingerprinting or anything like that. But we are keen to try and I'm keen to try and learn more about it as well.
Great. Okay. So I think, as we said before, that we will let users know when the new site is launched. So we'll also let the Research Professionals Network as well know as well, and communicate via Twitter and Yammer, etc. So I expect that in the week of the 25th. And once again, thank you. Oh, we've got one maybe. Bridget saying thank you. Yeah, we thank you for coming along today and for